We have another short Q&A to interview Nikolay Malyarov of PressReader. Please welcome back Carolyn Morgan.
So yesterday was a lot of talk about subscriptions, digital subscriptions, and I think that's probably the thing for us to really focus on this afternoon. And I guess what I'm interested in exploring is different models for subscriptions. It's not just about a single price for a single product for a single year. What are the different business models on subscriptions that you're seeing or that you're aware of?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question, and very timely, because obviously as an industry we're going through a pivot to subscriptions these days. We at PressReader, we started a subscription product, an all-you-can-read product back in 2003. And since then, we've played around a little bit with pricing, we've played a little bit around with bundling, and we're excited to see that the industry is finally moving towards discussing subscription models. The short answer to your question, there is no single subscription fits all. Just like there is no single approach that fits every publisher there is in the industry. You need to look at your audience. You need to look at the quality content that you produce. You need to look at the unique value proposition that as a publisher you're creating. What we're saying is that there is room in this very fragmented landscape to have subscription types of various kind. Be it micropayments, pay per article. Yes, they create friction, but there are subscribers who want that, who want just a single, non-committed use of a single article. There are bundles, bundles between a single product together with various experiences, events, etc. And this has really been the focus for most individual publishers. And there's absolutely room for the all-you-can-read subscriptions as well. And Stefan from Build has spoken to this yesterday as well, where we're really targeting the segment of audience that has not yet built the trust or the desire to get into this, what I refer to as a monogamous relationship with a single publisher, or perhaps will never really get there in the first place. This is the audience that we'll look at. There are these thrifty buyers. They're looking for something that addresses their individual passions, their individual likes, but those passions are addressed from content coming from a variety of sources, not a single source. And this is where that bundling comes into play.
Yeah, okay. So I guess the message really for publishers is experiment, maybe look at different segments of your audience. I think yesterday we discovered you can subscribe to the New York Times for $4 in Europe and $8 in the US. So it's like understanding different pricing levels. I guess another area, once you kind of get into the next level with subscription models, is trying to understand as a publisher what's the content that actually gets somebody to convert, what sort of like triggers a subscription. So are you aware of any kind of publishers that are looking at that, are particularly sophisticated in that area?
I mean, the data mining and understanding what content converts somebody to subscribe is absolutely critical. I mean, this is not news. We've been talking about it for the last 2 days. There are a number of publishers who have invested heavily into building data scientist teams. I've spoken with yesterday about the Globe and Mail, which is the national newspaper of Canada, that we're very intimately familiar with. And they have a team of 37 data scientists. They look at every single data point of somebody coming into their website, into their products, and wherever those products exist, and looking at what content drives most attention. Anecdotally, the content that has driven the conversion before has been the content that is the investment, the financial portfolio. And this is something that the Globe and Mail has been known for years. And it's something that they even had the paid-for product back in 2003, 2004 for. And so now they're looking, this is the exact same content that they've continued to invest in, continue to produce the quality of that content that converts somebody to subscribe to the Globe and Mail's paywall. What can they do with that data afterwards is the next evolution, is now you have the targeted audience that you have they have a monogamous relationship with you, that appreciate the quality content that you produce, and you can now upsell that audience. And so recently they launched a cruise as one of the sort of experiential elements, and something that you can't buy on its own. You have to be the Globe and Mail subscriber first. It was a very exclusive cruise. It featured 150 people on the very first cruise that they're taking, and it's going through sort of European rivers here. The cruise costs more than $10,000 for 2 weeks, but it's that exclusivity element, the money can't buy exclusivity element, although in this case it can for just over 10 grand, that really drives that engagement. And this is really what, when we're looking for something that converts, the customers are looking for not just quality, they're looking for convenience, they're looking for discoverability, they're looking for engagement with the publisher.
Yeah, okay, so that's interesting. So that's sort of like when you get to the next stage with subscriptions as a publisher, you really need to understand how different individuals behave. So you find the content that actually works, but then you perhaps then go down to the next level and you start to become very, very personalized in terms of how you convert individuals based on their their past history. And I'm kind of aware certainly the FT in the UK is starting to do that, is looking at what people have looked at, what content people have looked at, and then sending them a very, very tailored marketing piece which references the topics that they're interested in. So you get very personalized.
You do get very personalized, and that's important. But remember that there are, we see that there are 3 distinctive buckets in which the customers fit today. And in their willingness to commit to a subscription. You get and buy content. You have the civically committed bucket, and these are the people who believe in the mission of journalism, in the mission of quality journalism. They're the ones that would subscribe more for even altruistic, almost philanthropic aspirations. And they're really the target audience of individual publishers. This is your crème de la crème type audience that will continue to engage with your content. There are those that just pass by. They will never really get into subscription until probably years and years later, once they get into a habit and once they see that the scarcity of content is back and you can't really go and find content for free somewhere else.
Yes.
And then there is that middle ground, the thrifty shoppers that I mentioned. They're the ones that will make a conscious decision to pay for content once they fully understand its value and its relevance to me as an individual. And this is where the personalization element becomes critical, is because if we as a publishing community want to convert somebody to a paid subscription, we do need to understand how we can speak to each individual user separately. Not as a group, not as a bucket. We're not talking to millennials. We're not talking to 50 to 65-year-olds. We're talking to each individual person with our value proposition.
Yes, yeah. We've got time for one final topic, which has obviously been quite a kind of theme in the last day or so, which is platforms.
Right.
So in relation to subscriptions, how do you think publishers can best engage with the big platforms? In 1 minute and 38 seconds.
In 1 minute and 38 seconds. I think experimentation remains key, as well as the engagement with platforms. I don't think it's fair to say, right, one day we're in love with platforms, 2 years later we hate platforms. There is a lot more that platforms can bring to the table, and there is a lot more that can result out of the engagement, out of the conversation with platforms. I think the panel yesterday between Facebook and Der Spiegel was a perfect highlight of A, an engagement between a publisher and a platform, and B, also where the deficiencies are in the communication not just from the platforms to the publishing community, but also the communication from the publishing community to platforms, as to what the expectations of the platforms are. But what platforms do provide is an immense opportunity to get the content discovered. If you look at millennials, particularly, who've grown up in a very different world, they've grown up in a world of Spotifys and Netflixes, etc. Millennials are looking for ways of discovering content and are prepared, and this is an exciting news, they're willing to spend money on content that excites them, inspires them, but they subscribe for different reasons. They're not necessarily subscribing for, oh, I have a trust relationship with that publisher, so now I'll go and buy a subscription. They're subscribing because it's convenient. They're subscribing because it's, they want to skip ads, or they want to be amazed by content that they discovered that they didn't know that content existed. So engagement with platforms would be
Yeah,
my...
and so it's a kind of a different motivation.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Right, we're out of time. I think you're around the rest of the day, so if people want to
Yep.
come and talk to you, they can discuss this further. But thank you very much, Nikolay.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you.
Thank you.